Many communities in New South Wales are now recycling their food and garden waste through green lid, kerbside collections. This helps to keep food waste out of landfill, reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and turn an organic waste into a beneficial product that improves soil health. Organics recycling is a multi-million-dollar industry in New South Wales. It employs 1,700 people, generates $748 million in sales, and contributes more than $250 million in added value to the New South Wales economy. This video is a short introduction to what happens to the collected organics when it gets to a commercial composting facility. It pulls together content from the New South Wales Environment Protection Authority's online compost facility management course to explain the technology, the process, environmental benefits, and regulations controlling compost production and application in New South Wales. For a better understanding, sign up to the 8-module course via the New South Wales EPA Learning Management System. Once collected from the curbside, the food and garden waste is brought to a licensed organics recycling facility. Every facility is different, depending on the location and technology they use. The similarity is that they all produce professionally treated compost to meet New South Wales requirements. There are 3 main methods of processing organics waste. In open windrow systems, the collected organics is laid out in open-air rows that are turned regularly to assist in the composting process. In tunnel systems are closed systems which automate heat, moisture and oxygen to compost the materials. Many in-tunnel facilities finish the compost off using open windrows. Anaerobic digestion is a closed system that captures gases from food waste to generate energy, with the digestate at the end being processed into soil amendments. All of the processes used are regulated by the EPA to control contaminants and minimise environmental impacts, including particulate emissions, noise pollution, offensive odours, pathogens, fire, vermin, pollution of land, and pollution of waters. So how does composting work? The following animation shows just what's happening inside the pile over 12 weeks to break down the organics into a pasteurised, safe product. There is a lot going on in those compost rows or piles, so let's take a closer look. Understanding what is going on helps you to control the process to maximise the rate of decomposition of the organic material, achieve the temperature requirements for pasteurisation to occur, meet other environmental or quality specifications. A mixture of organic materials is placed in a pile, windrow or mass. This might include food scraps and garden waste, and commercial plant material with water added. The materials need to be in the correct carbon to nitrogen ratio of about 30:1. Biological activity rapidly increases and breaks down easily degradable sugars and starches under aerobic conditions, meaning there is oxygen in the pile. Slower degrading fats and woody material are softened and start to degrade. This activity results in rapid heating of the organic material to temperatures between 55 to 75 degrees Celsius, killing weed seeds and pathogens, but not the heat-tolerant composting bacteria. Pasteurisation is considered achieved for lower risk materials when the temperature has risen to above 55 degrees Celsius for 3 or more consecutive days. If the feedstock contains higher risk materials such as meats, biosolids, manures or food waste, this 55 degrees Celsius temperature must be maintained for 15 days. Materials remain hot, but during this period, temperatures begin to fall. Lower temperatures allow other beneficial bacteria and fungi to recolonise and multiply in the young compost. Most of the easily degraded sugars and starches are used up. Fats and woody materials continue to degrade to produce humus. Composts cool to less than 40 degrees Celsius. Beneficial bacteria, fungi and other microbe numbers increase. More woody material is broken down to produce humus compounds. Composts become more stable. reducing risk of nutrient drawdown. Plant available nutrient levels begin to rise. From 12 to 16 weeks, fungi and bacteria continue to break down woody organics at lower temperatures to produce more humus compounds. Composts become more mature, further reducing the risk of nutrient drawdown. Nutrients, including nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium, become more plant available and concentrated, increasing the nutrient value of the product. This is known as the maturing phase or final. Composting takes time and good management. It usually takes at least 12 weeks to produce a quality composted recycled organic product. During the composting process, the materials have undergone a number of stages: raw, pasteurised, composting, stable, mature. Pasteurisation ensures the end product is free of weeds and pathogens and safe to apply to land. Making sure the end product is free of physical contaminants like bits of glass or plastic starts at the curbside and carries on at the facility, as some of New South Wales' leading processors explain.
The impacts of contaminants on our daily business means that we can't make the quality product that we need to make every day, day in, day out. There's a number of points where we can control contamination, but the first point is in the home, whereby residents are educated on what's appropriate to put in the green bin. From there, all our vehicles are fitted with cameras, which assist the drivers in identifying bins that are non-conforming. From there, when the trucks arrive in our receival bay, we have the opportunity to then hand pick out the contaminants.
We do use a 10mm screen, so it is pretty fine. So the end result is anything that doesn't go through that screen has to be thrown away as waste, which we've got to pay a levy on.
We understand what shouldn't be in that product, and we can remove any hazardous materials before they get into the recycling stream. Once that hazardous material check's been completed, and we can then start decontaminating the balance of the product. We have a sorting cabin where the plastics and the engineered wood products and the inert materials such as rock and concrete would be removed. We have metal being removed by a magnet, and then we have a sizing and sieving that will then, anything that we missed will go back through the sorting cabin again. So we have multiple steps along the way that target different parts of the contamination and to ensure that we've got a clean quality product.
We like to get involved right at the beginning of a waste facility's life. So when an organisation wants to build and operate a waste facility, we ensure that they take things into considerations like our waterways, the air that we breathe, the level of noise and odour that they generate, and if there is any issues, then we address those there and then at the planning stage. When that organisation is then up and running, we do then conduct site inspections and look at their annual reports and attend to any complaints that may arise to ensure that they are operating within their licence conditions and therefore having a minimal impact on the environment.
I see the role of the EPA as being in between the community and business to ensure that facilities are being run as efficiently as possible and not impacting on communities. And the side benefit of that is that we have good products coming out of the composting industry and at a high standard, and to have that means the environmental impacts are managed well.
The EPA licenses waste facilities and monitors environmental performance basically to protect the environment and the community. This is done by ensuring that facilities are well run and that the activities of those facilities are managed appropriately and the products that they produce are quality, fit for purpose and able to be used in the wider community safely.
The whole process in New South Wales is regulated through the Resource Recovery Framework. Hear from some of our regulation and compliance officers about how that works.
Well, the EPA is very much encouraging the reuse and recycling of waste, but we need to make sure that that's done safely and that we're protecting the environment. When we say the environment, we mean the community. We mean environmental health, human health, agriculture, all of the above. One of the other ways we do it is through the resource recovery orders and exemptions. The resource recovery orders are documents in which the producer of a waste material needs to comply with. They need to make sure they meet the testing limits, chemical criteria, physical contaminants, as well as various process controls before they supply this recycled organic material to the community. Now, the resource recovery exemptions actually have the specifications for reuse. So how should we use this material? Application limits, buffer zones, stock withholding times, testing your soil, all of the information that the community need to know before they reuse the material.
Resource recovery is very important because we generate all this material that used to go into the landfill. It was a wasted resource, but now we are looking at ways that we can reuse that material, recover it, and put it out into the community in a safe and appropriate manner. So it's saving our environment as well.
Poor quality compost products can have quite serious environmental and human health implications. For example, if they lead to water pollution or if they lead to land contamination.
If these recycled organics are not managed properly, they can be a big risk to the community. I mean, we're talking about biosecurity risks, foot and mouth disease, mad cow. We're talking about the spread of pathogens and weeds throughout the community. That can cause huge damage. It could cause damage to ecosystems, to the natural environment. But for example, a farmer, it could ruin his crops, it could decrease his yield. There can be some serious consequences.
A product that's free of contamination and meets EPA requirements is a product that customers want. Clarence Valley Council Waste and Sustainability Coordinator Ken Wilson and industry reps explain why it's good for councils and businesses too.
I think the whole objective of council is to get a high quality compost at the end of the process that can be marketed, that can go back to the community and can have an environmental benefit. And I think that's what we're most pleased about.
A quality product for us is a product that meets the Australian standards 4454, and we need to meet that or exceed those minimum specifications. Ultimately, the better the quality of our product, the easier it is to sell.
If you make something that is environmentally friendly and it doesn't work in the application, you don't sell it. So it needs to be in the grower's environment or the client's environment that it has to perform. So it's a performance requirement as much as an environmental requirement.
The customer is demanding a high quality product. We're fortunate that we have Australian standards and EPA regulations to sort of prescribe what the regulator or the standard needs to be, but at the end of the day it's the customer telling us that they want a quality product.
There's a couple aspects to quality for us. It's obviously what a bigger picture environmental compliance issue, but the other thing of course is, as we're a business, is the actual product and what the client wants.
So, after all that, how does compost perform when it gets added to soils? Turf expert Dr. Mick Batham explains the benefits of compost on sporting fields, while Byron Bay grower Bruce Long details how it helps in vegetable growing.
The soils are really ratty a lot around Sydney, so the grass doesn't grow very well. And so if you can make the compost provide lots of nutrients and, for that matter, lots of structure to the soil, so it's not set like a brick, the grass will grow really quickly. Compost gives the soil really good water retention. Yeah, you can end up quadrupling sometimes how much water the soil can hold. So just by increasing the water holding capacity of that soil, we can make it as though, not quite as though it's irrigated, but almost there. Compost is full of nutrients, and why does compost have the best nutrients for grasses? We're talking about supplying nutrients to a plant, and we're using old plant material, which has almost exactly the same chemistry, of course, and we're stabilising it and using it and feeding it back to itself. So essentially we're putting in a very close to optimal nutrient supply. There's so much water holding capacity and so much disease resistance and all these other things that are beneficial, and you can see it in the turf growth. It doesn't lie.
Well, we're growing a variety of leafy greens here. We're experimenting with many different types. We have kale, rocket, pak choy, and many different types, basil and some herbs as well. And we've been using this product for approximately 1 year. One of the main reasons that we initially used the product was firstly for the weed suppression, that it was going to be an excellent medium to dress across the beds so that it would minimise the amount of weeding that we have to do in amongst all our vegetables and herbs. The other element of it is that the product is capable of providing at least a percentage of the nutrition that we need for our planting regime as well. We built this polytunnel and built the raised beds approximately 1 year ago, and the beds are 3/4 full of the topsoil that was on this existing site, and then we've got the organic compost material from Lismore, and we've dressed across the top of the beds with the compost. I think it's fabulous that the nutrient value is being recycled and rather than wasted into landfill, and that the material is being composted in a professional and organic matter. And yes, philosophically I think it's fabulous that the waste product from households is coming back to a situation where it can be used for a commercial use such as this.
We hope you've enjoyed this overview of recycled organics in New South Wales. The 8-module online compost facility management course goes into more details on all these topics and much more. Sign up via the EPA's Learning Management System, and for more information, visit epa.nsw.gov.au/FOGO.